Hey everybody, welcome to the Hamakua Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today we are making 2 loaves of bread. I've heard a lot that scooping your flour and other ingredients is a lot different than doing it according to weight. So I wanted to know the difference for myself. So today we are doing exactly that. We are going to make 2 identical loaves of sourdough bread, but the only difference being that one of them we're going to scoop our ingredients and the other we're going to weigh it. I just figured we might want to know the difference for ourselves. It might not be that noticeable, but let's find out. I'm getting today's recipe off of Farmhouse on Boone. This is the sourdough beginner loaf recipe that I've been using for several months now, and the family seems to really enjoy it. So we're just going to stick with the same one that we've made before and just see if there is a difference. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. On one side, we're going to use a scale. On the other side, we're going to use measuring cups. I fed my sourdough before bed last night, so it has been fermenting and bubbling all night long. Can you see the bubbles? Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. Let's start with the weight one. I'll be measuring with grams, so I'm going to tare it here. 475 grams of all-purpose organic flour, 100 grams of active bubbly sourdough starter, tare your scale, 325 grams of water, 10 grams of salt, we're off to a great start. I was able to keep it accurate, so I'm stoked. Now we're just going to go ahead and mix this all together and get it hydrating. Now I want to make sure that I really get it in there so that all of the flour is has access to moisture. Right, so now we're just going to cover it up with any kind of a cloth or anything just to keep any dust or bugs or debris out, and we're going to set it aside for 30 minutes. And that will give the flour a chance to absorb all the water and start its processes. So let's put the scale away, and now we're going to try the same exact recipe, but we're going to use measuring cups instead of a scale. I'm going to start off again. Instead of grams, we're going with 3.5 cups of flour. And by the way, I'm using all the same ingredients, same flour, same salt, same starter, everything. Half a cup of bubbly starter. 1 1/3 cup water. 2 teaspoons of salt. Mix them together just the same. I was lucky I have an extra one of these. My coworker gave me one. So now I don't even have to wash it in between on this experiment. That's kind of cool. Now, I am pretty pleased with how quickly this came together, because the time that one has to start hydrating won't really make that much of a difference. This took me less than 5 minutes to put these ingredients together. I can already tell that there is a big difference. There's a lot more flour in this. I didn't pack it down. I just scooped it simply. That's it. This is a lot drier for sure. The other one was extra sticky, and this one's not in any way whatsoever. We're gonna do the same thing, cover it up, and we're just going to start our timer now for 30 minutes, and then we'll check on both of them. Should probably mark them with an indicator of which one is which, huh? That might be helpful. Okay. We've got weight and volume. Okay, see you in half an hour. Our 30-minute timer just went off. We're gonna do our first set of stretch and folds. Looks pretty normal. It's very wet dough. I should have gotten my hands wet before I started, but I did not. So I just stretch So I just stretch each side over, kind of creating a bit of tension. Please excuse the cat in the background. So, then we're just going to cover it back up. Put our marker on there, or indicator, so we know that this one was done with weight. Wash my hands. I think the dough, and now I'm drying my hands. The dough would not have been so sticky on my hands if I'd have started with wet hands. Now let's do the one with volume. Right away I can tell that there is a big difference. This one is not nearly as wet. Still just going to take each of the 4 sides and stretch it out, kind of from the bottom, trying to make the bottom come over the top. This might get a little easier and less dry the longer the flour can absorb, the longer time it has. I think that was full 4. So once again, just cover it back up and we wait another 30 minutes. And we're going to do the exact same thing with both of them 30 minutes from now. And we're going to do that a total of 4 times. Shh. Meow cat. Please excuse him. He has no manners. And I just want to point out, I was not packing the flour in there, not by any means. I was simply taking the scoop in the bag, scoop it up, level it off. That was it. I did not pack it down in there. I just want to make that very clear because it kind of seems like it by the amount of dryness compared to the other one. So, all right, we'll be back. All right, I remembered to wet my hands this time. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing. Start with the one with weight and just do the same, stretch and fold. It's starting to get that nice elasticy texture. There we go, that's it. Number 2 complete. It's a denser dough for sure. This one is also starting to look a lot better. It's starting to come together. Something's happening with the moisture. It's helping. I feel like time is helping. It's not so pasty and flaky now as it was, but there's still definitely a clear difference between the two, even if I wouldn't have noticed the difference without them being side by side. But side by side for sure. 30 minutes later, let's do it again. This is the one for volume. Notice how I just got louder. The volume of my voice just got louder when I said the word volume. What am I starting to form bubbles? And the moisture seems to not be so much of an issue as I thought it might be, but it is most definitely more dense. The other one is forming bubbles. I don't see any bubbles in this one so far. We'll come back in 30 minutes. We'll come back in. Now that we have completed all 4 of our stretch and folds, we're just going to leave them out on the countertop at room temperature for several hours, probably until later this evening. We completed our stretch and fold at about 11 o'clock, so it'll probably be 4 or 5 o'clock before we come back to it. At this point, you do have the option to also do a bulk cold ferment. I have found in my environment here in Hawaii that it doesn't really work to my benefit to do it that way. I'm not entirely sure why, but so we are just going to leave this on the counter and bake it this evening rather than refrigerating it overnight. We're back at it. It is time to shape our dough. Both of them are looking good. They're both looking good. Let me show you. This is the one by weight. It's wet, it's bubbly, it looks wonderful. Keep our clips on so we know what's happening. This is the one by volume. It is still has a lot of its shape. It's definitely expanded, which it's supposed to do. But it's like, it almost seems sturdier, kind of. I need to come up with adjectives for these and the differences. That one's like wetter and slimier and more pliable. This one's like almost stiffer, kind of. Dense, hardy, heavier, stiffer. Anyway, let's go ahead and get these shaped. I'm going to shape them in bannetons. I'm going to use these, is it a banneton? It's a basket. I'm going to use these. They are a different shape, but I don't think that's going to mess with our experiment. I really don't. I'm going to pour this out onto a floured surface, shape it, put it in here, same side up. It is nice and fluffy for sure. It's got lots of bubbles. Looking good, looking good. This is not sticky really at all, which is different from what I'm used to these days, I suppose. Now we've got it all kind of pulled out quite well, I think. It's cooperating with me. Roll it on up. I'm not like putting a lot of pressure in there to pop the bubbles, but some of the bubbles will pop. We know that. Look at all these bubbles. They're beautiful. That looks really nice. It's working very well. It's doing what it needs to be doing. So we're going to put this seam side up. Yeah. And we're going to go ahead and set that one aside. Work on the next. Oh, wait, hold on. Don't forget our little clip so we know what's what. Put that right on there. Now we're going to do this one, which is by weight. It's a lot wetter. I decided to add a teensy bit extra flour to the surface here just because this one was so sticky and difficult for me to handle. Especially since my hands were wet. I don't think that was the right decision for this loaf. It was just too wet and too sticky. This one is tearing a bit, which I am not super excited about. That's looking pretty good. I like it. Okay. So with this one, we are using, oh, there's a little tear. It'll be okay. With this one, we're using the more oblong shaped one for the basket. Make sure your basket is very well coated with flour. I've had them stick, and that's no fun because it just pops all your hard work that you've been doing. There we go. That's gonna be good. They're both looking really nice. Really, really nice. That part is done. We're going to leave this here covered up, and we're gonna keep our clips on there so we know which one is which. Even though they're in different shapes now, knowing me, I would still screw it up, even though that's a circle and this is not. Well, it is 4 o'clock now, so I'm going to leave these probably for about an hour. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave these for about an hour or so, and then I'm gonna start preheating the oven. I'm gonna bake them both at the same time on the same type of sheet because I don't have two ceramic Dutch ovens, so I can't use that, which I prefer to use, but we're going to make sure we bake them at the same condition as each other so we can really tell any further differences. The time has come. We are going to prepare our loaves to go into the oven. I'm going to preheat the oven to 500 and I'm going to spread these out onto a parchment paper. Looks good. Looks good. And we are going to hope and pray that this did not stick to the cloth. I've been having, ooh, beautiful. I've been having problems with that happening lately. We've got some nice bubbles going on. This one is volume.
Summer will be over. You feel the change is closer at the bells of the dawn. The trees they are singing to the tune of a song.
That's looking pretty. Just gotta remember my thingy over here. Keep it clipped at all times. I don't want to mess it up. We're gonna do the same thing. Beautiful. This kind of flattened out quite a bit more than that one. That's a big difference between the two right now. I'm noticing a huge difference here. Hold on. Hopefully you can see this one is still really high up. It's holding its structure really, really well. This one is really flattened out. It's what that is quite interesting. I don't know. It's a really very significant difference. It just went the fermentation on this is a little bit shorter than usual. Like I said earlier, you do have the option to cold bulk ferment this from here overnight and then bake it in the morning. But we're not going to do that this time. I did this with the last few loaves that I baked and it turned out really nice. So, as soon as the oven is done preheating, we are going to stick it in the oven and we are going to put a cover on it on the baking sheet so that it acts like a lid. Now we just take off the lids. We're going to lower the temperature to 475 and put it in for another 20 minutes. They are both looking really yummy. So we went 20 minutes with the lid on at 500, 20 minutes with the lid off for 475. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. This one is by volume. It is noticeably taller. This one was by the weight of the ingredients. I really am not sure why it is so flat. That doesn't usually happen when I'm careful about the sourdough. This is very, very interesting. That one is very flat. I do not know why. It's almost like I didn't put the sourdough starter in it. It's so flat. It's really unusual. I couldn't have put the sourdough in the wrong bowl and doubled the one. I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go look at that while this is cooling down, and then we'll give it a taste test. I'm super anxious to cut into these things. I looked back into the footage and I did everything just as I had explained. I didn't accidentally swap it and put, this looks like no sourdough. It's pretty though. It's very pretty. Anyway, I didn't accidentally double up on the sourdough on this one. They're both very different from each other. Very, very. In texture all along the way, you saw that, the way that it went and it stayed while it was baking. You'll need to ignore the bottoms. I think my oven is trying to kill me. It burnt the bottoms. I didn't use the rice trick. I should have. Well, let's cut into these and see what the insides look like. It's pretty nice. That looks good. That looks really good. I don't normally cut bread like this. It's for the experiment. It's for the sake of the video. Holy moly. Wow. That's a lot of holes. You can't even make a sandwich with that. That's too many holes. We have to give it a taste. That is pretty. That is pretty. Wow. Wow. That's incredible. I'm gonna be really honest, this is not the results I was expecting. Really, really not. I have no idea why this one flattened. There had to have been something that I did different, but I can't figure out what it was. If I figure out while I'm editing this video what it was, I will be sure to let you know. It's almost acting like it's overproofed, but that's impossible. You saw the timeline. That couldn't possibly be the case. I'm gonna go see what my sweetheart thinks. Just a minute.
They're both off this?
No.
Or they're separate?
Separate.
That's a very strange texture.
Which one?
This one.
What about it is strange?
Maybe just the way it's cut, the holes, the way that the holes are doing. It's like they're multi-dimensional or something.
Yeah. All the bubbles, doing bubble things. That's such good butter though.
Oh, it's very good.
You like it? Mm-hmm. You like that one?
I don't think I can tell a taste difference. Can you?
Mm-mm. I cannot.
That was very, very good.
It's the same recipe I've been using. When it behaves this way and the holes are just too big to even have it be bread, that I find is an indication that you've overproofed it. You fermented it for too long, so it expanded already and then started to die down.
What was the one that I said was kind of different texture? Was that? And it is just that.
Yeah.
Layers of
big old bubbles. Mm-hmm.
Totally good.
I don't know why that happened. It's very surprising to me. So that one was by weight of ingredients. This one was by the quantity, basically. There had to have been something. I looked back in the footage to see if maybe I accidentally put both doses of sourdough in this one and f***ed it up. No, I didn't. No idea why that one decided to be flat, but that's really the only main difference. And I don't think that that would be because of my experiment either. There must have been another factor.
Up until this batch, the last batch was the one that was the airiest.
The one you said you liked the best.
Uh-huh.
And that one was not fermented overnight, just like these were not. Same recipe.
It's delicious.
Well,
it would be hard to make sandwiches out of that.
It would. It wouldn't hold.
That one would still work.
Yeah, this one will work for sandwiches. Maybe I'll keep it. Okay. The verdict is that they are both delicious. The verdict is also that the one by weight won't hold in your sandwich. It'll just fall right through. And the one by volume will make a sandwich beautifully. It's just a matter of one has a lot of holes and the other one is more dense, and it came up taller than usual this time, honestly. It's a tall loaf of bread. They're both good. They're just both very different from one another. It's pretty dramatic, don't you think? It's kind of dramatic. I have some science homework to do. Well, that's gonna do it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Hamakua Homestead. I'll see you again soon.